Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk HR. I am joined today by David Hawthorne Finch. Is that right?
Yeah.
And today we're actually going to talk about the talent lifecycle. So David, with your role in recruitment and recruitment changing, as we talked in the previous stream, a lot more to being that sort of career coach. I guess you get probably people ringing you all the time asking, am I getting paid the right amount? Is now the right time to be moving on? Should I be staying? And multiple questions, really. How are you finding the candidate-led market that we're currently in?
Yeah, it's quite different on both parts because I get quite a lot of candidates asking benchmarking where do I stand in regards to others, my experience, and we get a lot of kind of understanding people's skills and what they bring to the table, which helps them understand kind of what role they're ideally looking for, as we mentioned before. But we also get clients that quite frequently benchmark with us as well now, because we've got our finger in the pulse and we're speaking with all these candidates and other employers, their competitors essentially. We get quite a lot of clients that contact us and go, we're paying this banding, is this about right? So we do get that from both sides really quite frequently.
Yeah, and I think when you think about a talent life cycle, a lot of the times people are like, well, you hire a talented person, you keep hold of that talented person forever and forever and forever. And, you as the business have invested in that, so you get to reap all the benefits of it and you get to keep them as an employee. But sometimes it's better to let people go, isn't it? Sometimes it's better to bring in fresh ideas, fresh perspectives, fresh talent, really, and just let that churn go through. I guess, when should someone try to be retained?
I think with retention, it's more about kind of the reason behind the person wanting to leave. So if I always say to candidates when I'm speaking with them from their side of it, if you're leaving because the commute's too long or you've kind of got to as far as you can go, and there might be a case that scenario of the person before me needs to die before I can get that position, then yeah, fair enough. But if it's a case of you're just looking for more of an expansive, varied portfolio of work or something that the company can fix, then I always do kind of lead them down that pathway of having that conversation first, because I don't want to waste their time or my time at the end of the day and get to that counteroffer situation later on down the line. But from the employer's point of view, I find a lot of the time when it's a candidate-led market and there's such a shortage of candidates. So, for example, before it was veterinary, what I used to do, which is a similar boat to accountancy, where they just couldn't get the level of the number of people that they needed for the work that was required. They did have that hold them for dear life kind of approach. I think you have to kind of look at what they're adding to the table rather than just the technical skills. Are they actually adding value? Like, are they supporting more junior members of staff? What kind of environment are they creating? Because sometimes you find that people that want to go can create quite a toxic environment. And that's something that everyone really needs to take a step back and go, actually, are you what the business needs for the whole culture? Not just your technical skill. Because what you might find is if that person leaves, other people might start picking up the slack of the technical skill that goes in the short time until you find someone. But it's about kind of assessing it as a whole and seeing where those conversations go.
Yeah, and I think where I've experienced trying to retain someone and trying to do everything is when someone is a single point of failure, and if they were to go, then you created a problem in your business, and part of that is a failure on the business, for not cross-skilling and upskilling additional staff to get them up to speed to be able to take over that responsibility. Businesses should be looking at, have I got any single points of failure? How many people can do this piece of work? But you will end up in a scenario and a situation in times where someone has a skill that you haven't cross-trained over. And that's probably the time where you should be saying, right, well, we need to retain this person, because if they go, it's going to create a fundamental business problem from a boss perspective. And that's a good negotiating position for a candidate, really, isn't it, David?
Yeah, we get that quite a bit, but we get it where businesses just don't future-proof the business, like you're saying, where they're not kind of cross-skilled people, and giving them that exposure, because they're like, well, we don't want to give it to so-and-so because that's so-and-so's task. That might be candidate A's task, while candidate B would like to do it. And no one wants to kind of cross on anyone's toes to kind of push them out or make them feel like they need to leave. But like, for my example, my business, I absolutely love it. Like, I can go on holiday and someone else can take over my patch and just pick it up because they've covered it on annual leave or that. So the reality is, if I ever left the business, it's not going to completely crumble. Not that my ego would say that most days, but that's the reality of it. We're quite good at being able to pick up each other's work when needed, from the positive side of holidays, but also if anyone did move on and move up or move elsewhere in the firm. But you don't always get that. And we're finding that a lot with particularly financial auditors, external auditors in practice, where they kind of just get burnt out and they're overworked, or they feel that's the kind of common theme we get with them. But then when they leave, there's no one else to do it. So we are starting to see a lot more firms be less, you're just doing audit, and more you do accounts and audit, to give the diversity of the work, but also, as you said, the cross-functionality, so someone else can pick up the work as and when it's needed.
Yeah, and I think when you try to cross-skill and cross-train people, you can identify things that you're interested in. Like, someone might not know that they actually quite like audit, even though they might be a detail-orientated person. I imagine I would hate it. But I guess it's, people need to be exposed to things to realize what they want to do in the career, and what they enjoy in the career, and what they don't enjoy in the career. And the world of accountancy, people just think it's numbers, it's spreadsheets, it's this. But there's so much, I guess, people can get involved in, that cross-skilling is very important. But I guess when it comes to letting people go, it's, can you improve their career prospects if you retain them, for me? And if you can't, as a person that's been in charge of people, if you can't improve their career prospects and they want to, and they've got an opportunity to progress, that, I guess that's the time when you've got to let them go. Many people won't, you won't want to admit this, but obviously we've worked together way in the history. And, that day came where David, you found a better, I think better opportunities, and there's nothing I could have done because I didn't have anything suitable to offer.
Yeah.
So I could have, you can throw an extra couple of thousand at people, and it's not best for that person and that career. And I think Gail mentioned it in a stream we were on previously, that sometimes it's just better to have a bit of a churn, because it's natural in businesses nowadays.
Yeah, with the throwing extra money at it, you find that quite a lot, where people will just throw a couple of extra grand at it, but that will fix a problem for 6 months. And the problem you've got then is you're increasing salaries across the board, where you should be, like, to make sure everyone is in a banding, and it becomes this like really expensive project to keep people on. As where you get someone fresh in, they might have worked in a similar business, but maybe in a different remit sort of, or a different portfolio of clients, and they've got a whole different way of doing it, or maybe worked with a different system. And it might be more of a cloud-based system rather than the older paper systems. And they've actually come in, they've got these ideas, and then you realize that it's actually this way could work. Because my personal opinion is there's nothing worse than this is how we've done it. Like, that can absolutely cripple a business more often than not, I think.
Yeah. This is the way that we do it here. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think being open to new ideas, being open to new innovations. And I think if a business gets engrossed in that practice, they've probably not had enough churn and enough people coming in and challenging ideas and stuff like that. And it can be quite a stifling culture for a new person to come into if they don't want to, come up with innovations. What are the benefits of bringing in, I was going to say new blood, but I guess it is new blood. What are the benefits of bringing in new blood, apart from just the ideas and the practices? What would you advise people?
I think the kind of, when you first start your career or your journey within that firm, and we'll call it a journey, you kind of start off, and I know from the L&D side of things, it's you're at your peak of your interest during your induction. So it's kind of getting that energy as well that they can bring. So it's not just the ideas, it's not just the the skill set that they bring. It's the energy again. So someone new coming in, I know with our team, like I've been doing recruitment for 5 or 6 years in agency. And when I get a new starter that comes in and they're just really good, energetic to go, and they're following the process. And sometimes no matter what you do, you fall into bad habits. And for me, it's really good because I see them following the process rather than what they think they know, which I can do. And I'm like, actually, yeah, I need to do more of that. And it reminds me to kind of go back to basics a bit. And I think that's something that's quite key with businesses as well, that you kind of forget about that kind of motivation and aspiration.
How do you avoid, and probably more of a personal question for you, David, how do you avoid that new person with ideas going, what about this, what about this, what about this? And you go, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. It doesn't matter. Look, it's a different day, it's a different picture, it's a different opportunity. You know, what didn't work 2 years ago might work today. But it's really hard when you think, yep, tried it, yep, tried it, yep, tried it. How do you stay receptive to new ideas?
I think for me, because I work with so many different clients, but my area, my client base might be that I work with is completely different to the next person's client base, and they might be more receptive. And it's similar to personality traits and profiles, like insight profiles and stuff. I'm a very big extrovert, as we all know, and I love that energy, but somebody else isn't. Doesn't mean that their way of doing it is any different or wrong. It's a better way. So I always kind of, me personally, when new people have ideas, maybe it's something I've tried before or it didn't really work for me, I always get them to try it anyway, because I will say, well, I've tried it, it's not worked for me, but you might be able to get your own spin on it. So I'm not kind of getting them to do a task that I think that they're going to succeed at, and being very honest with them about it. But I do want people to try everything their way of doing it, because it might work for them. And that's really important, especially in recruitment, because people, it's you as an individual people work with, not your process.
Exactly that. And sometimes it's, you know, sometimes people are like, I don't want to work with David. It's just too outgoing and enthusiastic, and I'm an all, and everything has to be, you know, I need someone that stays between a 4 and a 7 on a happiness scale.
Yeah.
Anyone that goes 10, no. You know, and whereas someone where I really need that energy and enthusiasm to get me up for this career change and this interview to get me pumped and ready for it. So it is a case of different people for different situations, because everyone appeals to different people. If we all appeal to the same people, God, it'd be a boring place, wouldn't it?
Very boring.
I'm going to ask you the hardest question I can ask a recruitment consultant, which is, when should you accept a counteroffer, if ever?
I do think there are situations where it is required. Normally that should, as I said earlier, it's something that I always recommend people doing beforehand. I think if it's a case of you really like the work, the location's a perfect situation for you, you're enjoying the salary, that's not an issue. You just really want to get your teeth into the more gritty projects, but it doesn't really work. There are conversations that you should have before, obviously, applying for new jobs and stuff, but sometimes people they don't understand, they may not have the confidence, and when they get the counteroffer, they go, oh, well, we can just get you working with Steve down the road, and down the other department, you can try it for a while, he's secondment. People don't realize those opportunities are available to them, and then I think that's a good option for a counteroffer. If it's just due to salary, if it's the commute, if it's factors like that, then more often than not, I wouldn't recommend, from my angle, someone going for it, because those factors that you didn't like about your office, you didn't like your colleagues, or the commute was too long, they're not going to change. Money and workload, that could maybe change, but the other factors couldn't. Yeah,
and obviously the stream focuses on the talent life cycle, and it's something I personally have struggled with, because obviously I started working at a young age, worked my way through an organization to director level in my early 30s, and then I was like, well, now what? I've done it. I've done what I had imagined in my head as a life cycle. Am I just going to stay here for the next thing until retirement/death? And probably there's probably similarities for yourself, David, like just thinking, right, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? And I think it's about how do you set what your goals are. You know, a life cycle sounds like it's a beginning, middle, and an end, but in truth, it's multiple little cycles of progress. And people have become very good at switching jobs, changing career if something's not working, doing something else. I remember when I was in recruitment, I used to look at CVs and go, job jumper, job jumper, job jumper, which is hard to say. No. Find me someone that's got a level of commitment. But that's not the world anymore, is it? That's not the recruitment I was in.
No, nowadays you do get a lot more job jumping, and it's a lot more acceptable, provided they've got valid reasons. So, like, if I'm putting a candidate forward and they've spent 6 months over 3 years in each of their jobs, if they've said, "Oh, I went to this job and was working on this kind of portfolio, and then I moved and I started to work on this because I want to get more well-rounded, so I can be a generalist accountant," then great, that's fine. If people are job hoppers, people still have speculation about it, but it depends on the client and depends on the business. Some businesses just need help, so they're willing to take 6 to 12 months, maybe a year or two. I'm kind of the mindset that I'm very brand loyal. I kind of, when I start working somewhere, I try and stick it out, even when it's not going so well. And I've kind of got that life cycle of get to directorship, like you were mentioning before. But I am noticing a lot other generations, so that you might come across, they're not, or some sectors are more prevalent to it. It happens more frequently with them. But it's kind of a cultural thing, because I know with some industries in the Puro group, they don't seem to have that as frequent as where for the likes of accountancy, we see it quite a lot. But I struggle with it. It's difficult at times, because especially when recruitment agency, you've always got someone on LinkedIn messaging you, offering you jobs. I can get you more pay. You can work from home. You can do this, that, and the next thing. And it's kind of, it's one of those things that you have to take a step back and think, well, what do I enjoy about my job, and what do I like, and do I get that kind of accomplishment from where I am? And that's the kind of the difficult decision you have to do as an employee.
And I think you've touched on a really important point for an employee that's thinking about their life cycle and what they're trying to accomplish at the moment. There will be that moment where you're feeling weak. You've had a bad week. You've had a bad meeting. You've been told off for your boss because you haven't done something on time. And you get that message from that recruitment consultant on LinkedIn saying, "Oh, I'm looking for someone with just your amount of skills." And you think, do you know what? Yeah. That's probably the wrong time.
Yeah.
I think to be looking, just thing. And there are recruitment consultants that will just try and push you through and stuff like that. And I think if you're in that mindset of, is it a bad time? Is it a bad week? Is it a bad period? But is it going to get better? How many chances do you give, et cetera, and it's hard, isn't it? A lot of the time, grass is always greener, despite the fact it's it might be on fire.
Yeah, and I think from my point of view, I like to work with similar clients again and again. I like repeat business. I kind of get satisfaction out of that, because I can create a more bespoke process that works for both me and them. So for me, the worst thing ever is more that the candidate starts and then leaves. And that's to me is more important. Like, I would rather my candidate stay and be happy in the role, leaving for the right reasons at the right time of their career, because they've succeeded and they've done well, rather than I've had a bad month or two and now I want to go. Because it's the push factors rather than the pull factors. You're not going for the right role. You're going because you don't like where you are. And the factors of where you are might not be that different to where you're going. It might still be a very busy workload that you're kind of swamped at the moment, or it might be that you want to be a director, but then the new place might not be able to get that in the next year or two. So it's about sitting down and have that consultation, really, and kind of understanding what are the reasons for you looking to go. How can we help? And sometimes as a recruitment consultant, the biggest help you can get is helping them realize that they just need to have a conversation where they are, and a healthy discussion.
Do you think the word recruitment consultant has become, I guess, got negative connotations to it? A bit like car salesperson, when in truth it's evolved into something very different. Gail mentioned career coaches and how you should get yourself a coach at the start of your career. And, if you're working in accountancy recruitment, you could pretty much coach someone through their entire career and move them around. What should people be doing in terms of making sure that they've got someone to, I guess, develop their talent life cycle with them? as opposed to just, because once you leave a company, you've done with that development, it's someone else. But you need it's nice to have some form of constant, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the biggest advice I can give candidates in any market is really just kind of have a conversation with the recruiter about their process. Because a lot of candidates don't understand what we do in the background, which makes it difficult to make the right decision as to who's the right consultant for you. I definitely think there's a bad connotation to recruitment consultants. Their kind of word association becomes like the devil to some people. But I think the reason for that is, yes, there is unethical recruitment consultants out there, as there is any other industry. There's just a lot more of us. But it's about understanding their process. It's about having that conversation, because for me, some agencies may not be as GDPR compliant, but candidates are fine to let it go, where their CVs are being sent out without their consent. As well, like our process, which is why I enjoy working where I do, is where you sit down and you have to go through each position and firm and have written consent from that candidate to apply for each position, so they know exactly what they're applying for, exactly where the CV is going, and they're in control of their kind of next role, as opposed to getting a call from a consultant you spoke to 3 weeks ago and they're like, oh, you're going for an interview here this day, this time, good luck. So yeah, the word recruitment consultant is a bit dated. I think the career coaching side is right, but I think that because of the organization and the culture and the kind of the group I'm in, as where I might work for a high street recruiter or another recruiter that is a bit more mainstream, that everyone knows, and they might have a different process that works really well for them. So I think candidates may like that. And as we said earlier on, different horses for different courses, so to speak. Some candidates may like that. Some candidates might want a more bespoke approach. So it's really about tending to what suits you best.
And for me, it's don't be scared to have a conversation with the recruitment consultant, telling them what your goal is, telling them where you're trying to get to and how they can help you get there. If they can't have that conversation with you, they are just stripping your CV for words and sending you towards that match. That's always been my take on it.
Yeah.
Having worked in that type of recruitment where I was like, how many hours experience have you got on this software? Perfect. Send, and then charging great fees. Okay. In terms of talent, lifecycle, development, David, to sort of close off this, what is the main area of development that you're trying to sort of improve yourself this year? What skill are you trying to develop?
Probably my people skills, which sounds weird seeing as that's what I do daily. But it's kind of more understanding people and what motivates them, and kind of I've gone through some stuff, like I've been doing some stuff, research on insights profiles and kind of psychometric evaluations to understand kind of what really makes people tick, and understanding people's differences, because I'm really good at understanding similar people, but I really struggle to understand someone with a different mindset. So that's something that I've been really working on, and kind of getting a bit more in-depth knowledge about that. And to do that, first I had to get my own insights profile and learn about myself, and find out kind of what works for me and my way of working. And then once I understood that, I'm that step closer to understanding what works for other people as well. And I think that's where the career coaching side of it comes in. Some people aren't extroverts. They don't want to be in a busy office environment. They rather work at home. And that's great. That means I know to get that maybe hybrid working or that flexible working. So yeah, I think that would probably be my kind of 2022 development plans that I'm currently working on.
Mine, I'm trying to get my head around video editing and creation. So as you can see, the environment we're in today is my creation, and this is phase one. Hopefully I can do more improvements over the years, but that, as well as recognize my own mental health positive and negative triggers. That's how I'm trying to improve my talent at the moment, so that I know when I'm good for people and I know when I'm bad for people.
Yeah.
Because as David will tell you, I can have a bad day and everyone knows I'm having a bad day. And I'm not great at hiding it.
Same.
But this has been, let's talk HR. This has been the talent life cycle, and try to take some time to realize where you are in your development. It doesn't matter necessarily if you feel like you're at the beginning or the end of a journey. Everything's about rotations. Set yourself some goals, set yourself some achievements that you're trying to do, and work towards them, and then reward yourself when you achieve what you're trying to understand. You know, give yourself small wins, give yourself small rewards, and that can be something as simple as, you know, a donut, a drink, or it can be something great as a holiday if you know you complete a qualification or you studying such as what we offer here. Thank you very much, David, for joining us from Pure Accountancy. We will no doubt have you back again, David, unless we get a raft of comments saying no, he's far too outgoing. But we will catch you on the next one.
Yep, speak soon.